What's up?
Hey everybody, it's Mike Johnson back in the audio section of PWInsider Elite.com. This Wednesday evening, Lucha Underground debuts on the Rey Network. Check your local cable listings to see if you get it. We are on the line with former WWE and well-traveled world journeyman professional wrestler Matt Stryker, who's wrestled just about everywhere. Matt will be the lead announcer of Lucha Underground. Matt, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Mike. It's good to talk to you. It's good to meet you.
It's a good rebound for you. Last time we spoke to you on PWInsider TV was literally the day after you had left WWE, and now we're talking to you right as Lucha Underground's about to debut. So quite the rebound for you. So congratulations.
And that's the wrestling business and the entertainment business in a whole. It sounds cliche, but if one door closes, a window opens, and I prefer to climb in and out of windows anyway.
So let's talk a little bit about Lucha Underground. How did you get first involved with the project, and what are your first thoughts on it, and what should fans expect going into the first episode?
This was something I wanted to be a part of, and I know that pretty much everyone on the wrestling landscape.
Hey, Matt, I can't hear you. Speak into your phone.
I am speaking into my phone. I've done a million of these. This was something I wanted to be a part of from the beginning, and I think that pretty much everyone in the wrestling landscape wants to have their hand involved in this because of the fact that it's new and it's fresh and it's cool and it's different and all the buzzwords that everyone assigns to these new projects. I received a phone call from a former WWE colleague who is now working with Lucha Underground and just simply asked, would I be interested? I said, listen, I'll do it. I'll mop the floors. Whatever you need me to do, I'll be a part of it. Back and forth we went, and then the phone call came on a Thursday, put me on a plane on a Friday. We were out there on a Friday afternoon, and everything took off. What I really like about Lucha Underground is that I actually get to talk about wrestling and call wrestling. I don't have to make up stories or go into long-winded advertisements as an announcer. The vignettes are so well done that they tell the stories for us, and the actual wrestling in the ring tells a story as well. Imagine that. So for a guy like me, a true wrestling fan and a true Lucha Libre fan, I just have to call the moves and sit next to a guy who I had no idea how well-versed, entertaining, and slightly insane he is, and I'm talking about Vampiro.
I was going to ask you, obviously you've worked with a lot of different people over the years as an announcer. Vampiro, someone who has not had a ton of announcing experience, so you end up being the senior member of the team just by default. He's obviously a very well-spoken, boisterous guy, very colorful personality. How do you build that chemistry when right off the bat you guys are filming for national TV?
Vampiro and I, our ships passed briefly in the night for Court Bauer's MLW. I'm sure a lot of your fans remember that. And I always remember that a guy like Vampiro, who had been in the business for 414 years, he was actually really nice to me. He was kind and complimentary to me. And I always remember that because a lot of guys walk around like they don't need to talk to anyone. So when I re-met Vampiro, I said, hey, I don't know if you remember, but I met you in MLW. And he stopped me. He said, of course I remember. And right there, the chemistry was born. Anytime that a true professional, a guy that's been around the business a long time, it's like putting together a wrestling match. You have the chemistry just from, the natural abilities that each of you have. So the chemistry was instant, and from there, it's a roller coaster. And I'll be honest, I let Vampiro drive, and I just follow along, and the things that come up are natural and organic. And that's the difference, I think, with this program. A lot of the stuff we see on television, whether wrestling or not, it feels scripted. It almost insults the viewer's intelligence. And I'm not implying that any wrestling does that, but just in general, a lot of times people flip around on their remote control because things just feel very TV, very scripted. Not here. Everything's very organic, and I think that's what's really going to capture the first-time wrestling viewer and the long-time Lucha Libre fan.
Now, when it comes to the product itself, obviously we don't want to give too many years away because we want to let people discover it for themselves. But talk a little bit about the experience of calling the show on that small soundstage, and give us a taste of what the Underground and Lucha Underground is really going to be all about.
the first thing I notice, and hopefully this will come across through the television, is the atmosphere of the arena. It's not a lot of lights and pyro and the arena-based wrestling that we're used to seeing on television. This is a gritty, dirty, the term Fight Club has been used, but that's the environment. You really feel like you're watching a different kind of fight, per se. That's the first thing I noticed. Then from there, because of the way the building is shaped, the sound and the energy that people make, it blows me back. Sometimes I have to lower the volume on my headset because it's so intense. It really is a palpable feeling. And when something like that can come through your TV, in my experience, that's usually reserved for the World Series, the Stanley Cup, the World Cup. You know, a lot of things don't come through your TV per se. And I'm not just saying this because I'm involved with this program. If I'm not involved anymore after tomorrow, please no. I'll still say this. That energy is transcending. You can really feel the grit and you can feel the intensity of the luchadors, of the wrestlers as well.
Now, obviously, you grew up in the Northeast. You were a WWF guy, but you loved pro wrestling completely as a whole. You love the history of the business. How much did you have to educate yourself on the lucha style and the history of lucha libre to call this show, in comparison to, say, just walking into an indie show, sitting down and calling a show? What was your preparation like?
Well, I started to over-prepare based on my experience elsewhere. And as a former school teacher, you know, if you don't prepare, you prepare to fail, is the old saying. Prepare for success or prepare to fail or something like that. And at first I was taking a million notes and writing down so many different things, and then I realized I don't use half the stuff on my paper anyway. I'm at a point now where I just look at the monitor and tell you what I see. The only thing that I had to work on was how fast can I talk, because these guys move. I remember being young watching Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid, and I remember thinking how innovative and fast-paced and exciting those matches were, as opposed to Big John Studd, Andre the Giant, which was more of a methodical, plodding, slow pace. That's what the luchadors have. They're very fast-paced. There's a lot of springboards. There's a lot of flips and moves and weight distribution. We have a luchador named Drago who's become one of my favorites, and he has a pinning sequence that I have to pause, frame advance slow to watch to see what it is he's actually physically doing. And then when you play it at full speed, the athletes of the world have changed so much in the last 7 years, not even 20 years, in the last 7 years. And I think that the luchadors in Lucha Underground really embody today's athlete. And I think that's going to be something that's going to grab people.
Now, you've been a part of that, of watching that change in the landscape, literally from when you started training at Johnny Rod's school in New York and working independents, working 0-1 in Japan, working for different promotions, and then going to WWE and watching it not only as a performer who worked on the WrestleMania stage, but also as an announcer. Why do you think the landscape of the business has changed so much in terms of the athletes over the last 10 years?
The first credit I give is to Paul Heyman and Tommy Dreamer with ECW, and then the second wave came with everyone and their mother watching UFC. Everyone knows what a fight looks like now, and people know with the old guard of wrestling, a guy would stomp his foot and punch a guy in the face 6 times, and there'd be no blood and no red swelling, and the guy would just run to the ropes. And it was a disconnect, and it really was insulting those that chose to suspend their disbelief by actually watching. So what has happened now is people realize that those things aren't going to fly anymore. And I believe guys like, you know, the Young Bucks and guys like Prince Puma and Johnny Mundo and Phoenix, they started to evolve the maneuvers so that the 80-year-old man and the 8-year-old little girl can both go, wow, at the same time. And that's something that the wrestling landscape was missing, and the hand has been forced now by Lucha Underground. I think once Lucha Underground hits the airwaves, and you can go to elreynetwork.com, just type in your zip code, it'll tell you where you can find this program. Search the internet, they have a thing called Google now, it's pretty cool. But once Lucha Underground comes out and starts to get a buzz, it's going to push the hand of other things, and that's going to change the dynamic of sports and entertainment as a whole.
So, what are obviously your goals are to provide the best commentary possible for this product, but you've always been someone who has held the company that you've worked for on your sleeve, like your heart. And I know leaving WWE was very painful for you. What are your goals in terms of seeing the company grow? And obviously this is a different type of entity where the series is being produced by the network. It's not an independent promotion trying to sign a deal with a television station. So that puts Lucha Underground in a different position than just about any wrestling company in the last 20 years, other than Ring of Honor, which is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. So, with all that said, what are your hopes for this company as it grows over the next year?
One thing I've learned from the other side of this business, not the in-ring side, is that it starts with the organization. It starts with the people involved. You mentioned the past places I've worked, and I still will always wear those places on my sleeve based on the people and the relationships that I've formed and forged there and the desires they have. What strikes me about Lucha Underground are the people that are making this thing go and how dedicated they are. And I can list all the wrestling people that are involved, but to me what's more impressive are the Rey Network people that are involved. From day one, people have gone out and just simple things like learning the terms, learning the names of the wrestlers. There's such a respect and reverence for the history of Lucha Libre that even a Los Angeles cameraman who's been shooting reality TV for the last 5 years has gone and done his due diligence to come back in the next day and say, okay, so when the guy for the pinfall here and kicks out, I should get this shot. And it makes me realize, wow, you went home and did your homework, cameraman. You're as emotionally invested in the success of this product as a fan would be, as an announcer would be. And when you're surrounded by intense, passionate, dedicated people, you can't help but that's infectious, and if you're going to drag your feet, you're going to get left behind. So that's the first thing I noticed. And I think another thing people will notice, there's no line to toe here. I just get to sit down and call wrestling. And that's what I've been doing since I'm 7 years old into a tape recorder. So I think that'll resonate a lot with the viewers as well, as there's just a natural passion. No one is phoning it in here.
The tapings that we're going to see on October 29th, it's going to be the 2-hour debut special. Give us an idea. Obviously, you can't give everything away, but give us an idea of what sort of talent and matches fans can expect on that debut episode.
It's first and foremost, I believe the idea, and I think Conan said this best, the idea is to bridge the great legacy of Lucha Libre. And this isn't just for Spanish-speaking people or fans, Latino people. This is just basically for any sports fan, any drama fan, any soap opera fan, any horror fan, across the board. Whatever genre you identify with, you're a comic book guy, you're a Star Trek, there's something here, and I'm not just saying that. You'll see some of the great Lucha Libre legends that you undoubtedly have heard about. And even if you haven't heard about it, these are real-life superheroes. The masks have a story. The outfits have a story. The moves have a story. The rivalries have a story. It really is, to me, akin to the popularity of certain shows like Breaking Bad, like the Sons of Anarchies and the things of this nature that have such cult followings, because you're going to get invested right away in the characters and their story arcs. And then comes the physicality. Then comes the wrestling, which to me is the difference. The stories and the colors and the characters will grab you, and then it's the actual wrestling that reels you in, as opposed to other places that just try to throw wrestling at you. If you don't like wrestling, even the best wrestlers in the world aren't going to get your fancy. But everyone likes drama. Everyone likes a story, things of this nature.
So how different is producing an episode of Lucha Underground and announcing an episode of that